Hello. In this recording, we're going to take a look at a while loop. A while loop is a repetition structure. It is a control structure that will allow us to repeat one or more statements uh, based on a condition. Basically, a condition is going to be a Boolean expression, and the loop body, indicated by the content within the block, will repeat as long as a condition continues to evaluate to true. So let's go ahead and run this very simple while loop and talk about its parts. Okay, so I have the keyword while and then a Boolean expression. Then I'll have my braces to indicate the block, which contains the body of the loop, the statements that are to be run repeatedly. Once again, this loop will continue to run until this evaluates to false. A for loop is a count controlled loop. It has a built-in counter. A while loop is a condition controlled loop. It does not have a built-in counter. Therefore, I will need to have something inside the body of the loop that modifies one of the items in the expression. Okay, I might have two variables here, but I have to have something that will make this loop eventually terminate. If I don't do that, let's see if I can recover from this. Uh, if I don't change x with this particular expression, um, what's going to happen is x will be initialized at 0. First time we encounter our while loop, 0 is less than 10. So we're going to print out x is currently 0. Now, right now, I've commented out the change to the variable x. So when we get to the bottom, we're going to come back up and test to see if the condition is still true. Well, 0 would still be less than 10. Okay, I'm going to try to run this without crashing the computer. I have just intentionally created an infinite loop. And you see my computer is just kind of freaking out. You might even hear the CPU fan spinning up on my hardware. I'm going to stop this. Now, infinite loops are bad. A programmer would never intentionally do this unless you're back in college and trying to crash your buddy's computer. Um, the problem is more what happens if a user enters a value that doesn't allow the loop to ever terminate. A classic example I use for this is something like a credit card payoff simulator, where you let the user enter a value of how much they want to pay on their balance. But remember, with a credit card, you incur uh, monthly interest charges. And if the user enters a value that is not large enough to pay off at least the interest and 1 penny more, then their balance actually grows. And that's an example I like to show incoming college students when they're just getting their first credit cards. Okay, so some interesting things to note about the while loop. The while loop is a pretest loop, which means the expression is tested before the first iteration. It is possible that user input or programmer error could write this in a way that this would never run. So I'm going to simulate that right now. Okay. Actually, I should have uncommented this. Not that it matters, because I know this loop was never going to run. Because if I set x equal to 100, 100 is not less than 10, even the first time it's encountered. So I will run no iterations. So again, we classify a while loop as a condition-controlled loop, as opposed to a count-controlled loop like a for. And it is a pretest, which means it's possible this program will never run. Now, once again, as I've done in some other videos, I've got some pre-typed code over here that I'm going to plot into my program. Set this to 0. And I'm going to ask the user to enter in how many times they want this loop to run and use that variable as part of my while loops condition. So I'll go ahead and run this one now. Okay, 50. And as I've mentioned in other videos, you need to think carefully about how you write your expression. This did actually run 50 times. People often forget the zero here. To make it a little bit more straightforward, I could have maybe set x to 1 and then said, while x is less than or equal to iterations, and let's run this again. We'll try 50. And so now this is counting in more of a normal fashion. And there's a lot of ways that you could write your expressions here. Okay, you could hard code literal values. You could, well, obviously we have to have at least one variable because that variable has to be able to change within the body of a loop. But we could use user input to drive a part of that expression as well. In the case of the credit card payoff example, what I might do is, what is your balance? My balance is 10,000. While balance is greater than 0, simulate the user making a payment. Okay. I hope this has been helpful, and we will see you in another video.